Outgoing ambassador of the Kingdom of Belgium to Cameroon, Stéphane de Pine, has bid farewell at the end of his diplomatic mission. Today, he was received at the Unity Palace by the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya. No Hajj for Muslim faithfuls in Cameroon due to the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Minister of Territorial Administration confirms an earlier decision taken by Saudi authorities. Only Muslim faithfuls in Saudi Arabia will exercise these religious obligations. And finally, our reporter Peter Nsosier will bring to you the United Nations condemnation on humanitarian workers in the northwest and southwest regions in Cameroon in an attempt to bring peace and normalcy back into those regions. Good evening and thanks for watching this 6 p.m. newscast on Spectrum Television. I am Josephine Bindzi. As announced in the headlines, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has condemned repeated threats and attacks on humanitarian workers in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. At a press conference in Boya, James Nonan says that humanitarians are neutral and independent, and their activities should not be linked to the reconstruction and development plan of the ongoing and United Nations Development Program. Peter Nsosier with details on this.
In recent weeks, social media has been awash with threats and misinformation on humanitarian NGOs and UN agencies in the northwest and southwest regions. And the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs is outraged over this.
Myself, community health worker, and I mean that's one of the reasons I'm here today. The suspicions and the maybe even the fake news circulating has been targeting NGOs, has been targeting humanitarian organizations, and it's quite unacceptable that staff members can be killed.
The recurrent phenomenon evident in the murder of a Médecins Sans Frontières agent last week by gunmen has gained steam with news about the reconstruction and development program for the restive regions co-piloted by the United Nations Development Program.
So, due to the nature of this crisis in the Northwest Southwest, it is absolutely imperative that all humanitarian actors are seen as neutral and impartial. So as such, it should be known that the humanitarian response is completely independent of the PPRD and also UNDP.
At the press conference in Boya, the head of the UN Sub-Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs stated clearly that UN humanitarian agencies have a completely different mandate from the UNDP.
The development program is the development arm of the UN. We are the humanitarian arm, and we are both very independent of each other. So UNDP does not conduct humanitarian activities, and as such they have a different mandate and they operate in accordance with different principles. UNDP's primary partner in every country is the host government.
He also indicated that the presence of UN humanitarian agencies is influenced by the alarming figures of vulnerable persons, and so they must be treated as neutral bodies.
The message that I want communicated today is that humanitarian organizations and their staff must be supported by all sides to the crisis to continue their life-saving assistance in safety, and that the humanitarian response will continue based on the fundamental humanitarian principles which include neutrality.
About 2.3 million people are affected by the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, with 1.4 million people targeted with humanitarian assistance in 2020. Despite large shortfalls in funding, the United Nations says its humanitarian response provides food to over 175,000 IDPs monthly.
Trade practitioners have met with members of government to find an antidote to the ravaging COVID-19 pandemic in Cameroon. John Paul Sama with details on that meeting.
As the COVID-19 ravages through the world, governments are finding different ways of dealing with the pandemic. The Cameroon government has this Wednesday held consultation talks with trade practitioners in the country to seek a solution to the disease which has no vaccine or cure from the international community.
I'm very happy an honor to have presented my contribution to the government. And we are really, I hope that all Cameroonians will have very soon their viral reinforced for the prevention and the cure of the COVID-19. So we are really very happy. Thanks for this consideration on natural medicine. Yes.
This gathering provided the traditional practitioners the opportunity to present to the government their findings, amongst them Samuel Kleda, who is said to have healed thousands of persons with his concoction. They are also hoping that the state works closely with them in this research process.
There is conflict in the points of views of Cameroonians as concerns a possible solution to the COVID-19 pandemic. The question has been asked to the man of the streets, which drug do you prefer? Let's get their reaction.
Despite the advent of modern medicine, traditional medicine still remains a major source for preventing, diagnosing and/or treating several household diseases in Cameroon. On the streets of Douala this morning, July 15, 2020, some citizens give us their opinion on the place of traditional medicine in our community.
Je pense que la place des médecins traditionnels.
I believe that traditional medicine has its place in our society. There are illnesses that modern medicine can't cure, and most often, it's through traditional medication that the patients find healing. To me, the government has to associate modern medicine to traditional medicine.
La
médecine traditionnelle a une très grande place. Parce que nos ancêtres ne vivaient que de ça, ils opéraient même des gens.
Traditional medicine has its place in our community. Our ancestors lived just with traditional medicine. They even went as far as carrying out operations with the use of traditional medicine, and they healed most diseases. Today, we are all buried into modern medicine, which most often contains a lot of acid that causes adverse reactions to our system. Whereas, we have natural plants in traditional medicine that has no adverse effects. I personally prefer plant medication to pharmaceuticals. This notwithstanding, information on the population's attachment to traditional medicine, despite the advent of modern medicine, still remains inadequate. However, it's imperative that both the modern and traditional practitioners strengthen their collaborations for safer and more effective services to the Cameroonian public.
His Excellency Stéphane de Pine, outgoing ambassador of the Kingdom of Belgium, has come to an end of his diplomatic mission in Cameroon, and he has been granted farewell by audience of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya. Both personalities centered discussions on the economy, trade, and humanitarian assistance. Cameroon lawmakers have drafted a tentative budget for 2021 with much emphasis on investments, reconstruction, and the payment of internal and external debts. The desire to step up the production of local rice, maize, and fish is one of the areas the budget is intended to cover, and also curb the importation of such food items. The sum of 100 billion CFA francs is expected to be mobilized next year, as opposed to the 180 billion CFA francs for this year. And over to the southwest region in the Meme division, the Kumba City Council has now a pioneer specialized finance controller. She was technically installed into her new functions on Tuesday, July 14, 2020 by the Minister of Finance representative. Christelle Asexwele has details.
Finance controller to the Kumba City Council.
The Kumba City Council now has a pioneer specialized finance controller in the name of Abeyane Violet Afo Azang. She was technically installed into her new functions on Tuesday, July 14, 2020 in the Kumba City Council Hall by Anon Chunkan, Meda, Inspector of Budget at the Ministry of Finance in Yaoundé, who was representing the Minister of Finance.
In this solemn ceremony of technical handing over, I here present Mr. Arnold Shukan, representing the Minister of Finance. I hand over these stamps to the specialized finance controller here present for her to use these stamps for the advancement of the Kumba City Council.
Also present at the ceremony was the representative of the Senior Divisional Officer for Meme Division, Mrs. Hemia Njonje, the Mayor of Kumba City Council, Victor Ngonkele, who expressed joy that this position has been created and a seasoned official appointed. The 42-year-old finance controller will have as task to control all expenditure bills of the councils in the city of Kumba and also control all administrative acts relating to her office. This will stop the municipal treasurer from performing the dual functions which he handled before.
Being appointed now as the specialized finance controller for the city council, Kumba 1, 2 and 3, I am not going to do it alone. I believe we are going to work in collaboration, we are going to work in synergy to see that we foster the development of Kumba, especially, and the southwest region at large. What differentiates the service of the specialized finance controller is that the finance controller orders the payment before the treasurer pays. Without the visa of the financial controller, the treasurer would not be able to do any expenditure.
The pioneer specialized finance controller has worked in various services in the Ministry of Finance, with the last two in the Southwest region. Her appointment will go a long way to improve the financial records of the Kumba City Council and the 3 subdivisional councils of Kumba 1, 2, and 3 subsequently.
And we remain in the Southwest region, now in Fako Division. Businesses who shut down operations and respect ghost towns will be sealed permanently. The warning has been fired by the mayor of Boya, David Namange, after he staged a fight against ghost towns this week. Taxi drivers too have been called to identify themselves and vehicles to avoid harassment. Peter Nsosier with details.
Like his predecessor Ikema Patrick Esonge, David Mafani Namange goes on a selling spree on shops, banks and bus stations heading to separatist calls for ghost towns. The move comes on the heels of a sensitization campaign which has so far fallen on deaf ears.
As we don't lock them today now, because we don't take 1 month for talk with them and we'll be agreed that they will be open. But as we can't see they need open, you know say, even for law, for criminal law, they say they put sanction, not before kill now, make people make them obey law.
Mayor Namange justifies his action on the basis that repeated ghost towns are impeding council revenue, essential for communal development.
And I want to tell you, say, most businesses they never pay taxes for council for long. They say business need work. But if they say if the council one day again, when I think say na correct, so the top. They expect me town be clean. With the try, they no easy. Taxes may come. So make they show we say that they try, think they had them. Before go understand, they say they'll just take 1 day, they should go house.
After selling the shops and other businesses, the council expects that the punishment will be an eye-opener for responsible behavior.
So this sanction, the sanction them today, they will come for council, go sit down the brothers and sisters. They go pay the fine where they know, because no be new fine, they know. When they pay them, we go open them exceptionally now. But after this week, when we seal any place, we go only open them up again on another month they will be outside.
In the same vein, taxi drivers in the municipality have been schooled on the importance of identifying their vehicles and themselves. Henceforth, drivers will have a door number, matriculation number, identification badge, and face mask.
The Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, chairman of the Hajj Commission, calls to notice the Muslim community that due to the persistence of the COVID-19 pandemic around the world, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has decided to limit the participation of pilgrims in the Hajj 2020 to only people in Saudi Arabia. As a consequence, Cameroonian pilgrims are excluded from participating in this important arm of Islam. Some artists in Cameroon have called on the head of state to promulgate the bill governing artistic and cultural associations sent to Parliament by the Ministry of Culture. They say the chunk of the bill has to be revised. John Paul Sama has details.
Artists are furious over the fact that the bill on cultural associations introduced in Parliament will see Cameroon blacklisted by UNESCO, which will in turn mean they will no longer benefit from some of their funds. They are crying foul over the fact that this law will bring division in this sector.
Together in what you call artistic and cultural domain, and this domain is very, very sensitive. And our minister has taken a law through the parliament who is going to damage it because they want us association to move on in subdivisions. This is not fair. They want us to every act, every step of our life we have to go through the minister to ask authorization. This is not possible.
Their wish is that the head of state should resend the document to be revised, taking into account their preoccupations.
All those things is just for the artistic and the cultural domain, not for the other domain. So we are very angry, and we are asking to the chief of the state to do not accept this law, to send it back to the parliament. Let's talk together. Let's dialogue. Dialogue is very important, and the culture is the last thing we have together. You know, so that's our message.
The bill on cultural associations was introduced in Parliament a couple of days ago, and since then a lot of doors has been raised by artists who say the bill doesn't all reflect their sector.
On our international page, a presidential nominee usually vets several people, so if troubling information is discovered about one pick, the nominee has more options to choose from. Details with the VOA. And thanks for watching the 6 p.m. newscast. That was a package we put tonight for tonight's edition of the news. Stay tuned to the 8 p.m. newscast with Orion Donkeng in the French language. Take another rendezvous with us tomorrow at 6 p.m. Good night.